Hi guys, welcome to the Alpha Strike podcast. Daniel Hester's here and Red Pal. Today we're going to go over a little bit of some LVO action. Everyone's hot and heavy on trying to get ready for LVO. The lists are live on BCP. There's a lot of Marine players going on. So we're going to go over the top 10 list and top 10 players of ITC. Basically, they're all going to LVO. Just to give a quick rundown of some of their lists and see try to figure it out and see if there's any hard counters or anything to that nature to those players that have already made it to the top 10 of ITC at the moment. We'll also just touch base on scoring again, like we did last time. Give a little bit of insight on how to kind of move your way through the kiddie pools up to the big boy games. Right now, I believe it's still sitting around 850-ish. Correct me if I'm wrong, Red.
I think that's right. I admit I haven't been able to see the final tally, but yeah, I mean, we're talking definitely 150, 200 more than last time. At least.
With all the requirements and everything, especially list submissions, there's still a lot of folks on BCP at the moment, so they'll probably drop those here in the next day or so, because they were specifically saying they were giving out yellow cards, I believe, per day. You didn't have a list up until you were DQ'd. So I don't know how heavy and how hard they're going to go on that. Yeah, I am still Fury painting here. Red is doing the same thing, obviously, because he's looking down at some of his corn stuff there.
Yep.
I've still got half of an army to paint in like a day and a half.
You got this.
For someone else. So we're knee deep in the thick of it. So we're going to go ahead and start off with kind of a part 2 of what we were talking about last time. We had some good feedback and some questions on what we were discussing when we were discussing how to kind of max out and how to get into the top area, the top tables, what it's going to take exactly from a play level and expectation level, right? So from an expectation level, we were talking before we started recording here, and Red had some great input on that, and we also had some questions and some comments as well. Some people realized with their list and their average average points that they've been winning with, they had to come to a realization that lists are locked in, and if they didn't come up with like a get out of jail free card and start slapping some points down, they weren't going to make it to the top. So they've come to some heavy realizations of where they're going to play at basically for the weekend. And still, obviously, no matter how many points you have, if you go undefeated, you're still undefeated, right? So
yeah, no, exactly. So with this, man, there's this deal, and people in some tactical environments are more than aware of it. But when it comes down to it, and you go into a fight, and you've got to keep fighting, right? This is not just some kind of exercise or some kind of game where it's one and done or what have you. But you got to pace yourself, right? And I'm not talking about just like a breathing so that you can keep running or whatever. I'm talking about you got to pace yourself in regards to your operational reach and what you are able to accomplish. And so in certain regards, you've got a magazine and you go into an engagement, you understand you've got to fight. You're going to get into a gunfight, we'll say approximately 6 more times, right? And so you've got 20 rounds. Are you going to burn through all 20 rounds in one engagement and then go into the next 5? And you've burnt yourself out one. You got to pace yourself in regards, not just physically, but in regards of how you approach the game. In certain regards, you know that if you get 42 points round one, you're probably going to be playing against someone that got 42 points. And by no means am I saying you need to hold back, right? I personally go into every deal and I'm going to put everything I can at it and see where I come out, because honestly, that's just how I like to go into the competition. I want to push myself as hard as I can and give everything I have and see where it shakes out. And that's perfectly fine, right? I acknowledge to a certain extent that if I do that, I might end up against, I mean, I did that last year at LVO, and the second person I played was Alex Harrison, who then went on to the finals against Brandon Grant and ended up losing. But I still played against Alex Harrison in the second round, right? The guy I played in the first round, we had an excellent game, but I ended up achieving the point value that just got me where I was going. And so all I'm saying to anybody that's going to this event is that with, let's say, 850 people, if half of them all scored whatever, or let's say 10% scores 42, and you're part of that 10%, you're going to be playing against those people as you continue on, right? And so it's a gauge of how much ground do you want to gain in each engagement to get you to your goal of whatever you're trying to accomplish. And so this is, by no means am I telling people to hold back or to not, because if you could very well risk and try and preserve whatever with whatever ground you might gain, and you might end up missing the top 16 by 2 points. And so you've really got to weigh the risk in regards of how you go about getting where you want to get for LVO, because the field is just such a large field. You have to understand exactly what you're doing and what you intend to do, along with the degree of random matchups that you're going to get along the way.
Well, and no matter where you're playing, skill level wise, if you get bumped all the way up and touch the sun, I mean, I did the same thing last year and ended up losing to Snyder, and he went on as well to go up there, but it's also a level of what you're expecting to get out of the weekend. Obviously, it's to do well, but someone had a question about their skill level. Like, they don't want to be dogged out for the rest of the weekend, basically. So, that's kind of what Red's saying is play to your skill level. Play. If you're going to have fun, you're about to go touch the sun. You can still back off.
Well, and I mean, and if you're going to have fun, like, have a good time, right? I mean, there's a lot of times when we're talking about stuff, whether it be like building an ATC team or going to an event that might be a learning event, your first time participating in a given format or something, people ask me, how do you think I should go about it or what have you? And I say, well, do you want to have fun, or do you want to have fun and win, right? Because the fair notion with humans is that we all want to win, right? It's very hard to go to an event and not win and not kind of, like you said, kind of dog yourself out for it, right? And so you got to kind of embrace the fact that to some degree there's always a possibility that you're going to lose. And in that, for anybody that might struggle with that, I wish you the best, because in the end, this is a game, right? We are doing this for enjoyment, and you're not always going to win. I mean, there's a couple people out there that we can say have a really good chance of always winning, and that's a couple out of 850 people that are going right now. And so I'm not saying you got to settle by any means, but at the same time, unless it's something that you've really been working at, I think that it's something that you just need to be prepared for one way or the other, because it is a game, and every once in a while you're going to lose, and that's okay. For those of you that's your first time to LVO, I mean, it's only my second time, so I wish you the best, and I hope you have a great time, because I had a great time last year for my first time as well. I know I'm really looking forward to going this year. I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of the people that I've met across the country. And it is quite a blast for it being the largest 40K event that I've ever attended to record and date, and it is not going to disappoint in that regard either.
Yeah, it's a great event. We both went for the first time last year, and got to meet a lot of great people. A lot of good friendships came out of that. So it was good to finally get out there and do our thing. I'm hoping for a little bit better this year. Last year I kind of handcuffed myself and took all Death Guard, even though I'd been playing it all year. So looking to see what I can do. So let's just jump on into it. Interesting enough, there's a couple of fantasy leagues out there. Everyone's picking some winners and hoping they can ride it out, fantasy LVO style. We did one tonight that I was in. I ended up picking Siegler, Boris from Europe, Ruben Fernandez, snagged Shane Watt, one of your Army guys.
Yup.
Robert Birmingham, and our local Thomas Bird.
Nice.
That's my sneak-in pick. So if you're watching this, you better perform. If not, we're gonna call you out. So, but yeah, it's all in good fun. Hoping the best for my people at least.
At least.
And obviously gonna see a lot of folks that we haven't seen in a while out there. The top 10 ITC for the moment, had it pulled up here, is Richard Siegler, Jim Vessel, Nicholas Rose, Nick Nanavati, John Lennon, Manny Chima, TJ Lanigan, Chris Blackham, and Brian Pullman and Steve Pamprine rounding out the number 10 spot there. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go over their list a little bit here and just give a quick rundown of what they're running, what to expect kind of thing. And out of the top 10, see if we can pick some winners here. So we'll start off with obviously the number one guy. We'll start off with Richard Siegler here.
Yeah, so we're looking at Iron Hands, right? And him and his Brohammer brothers have got a trend going in the number of Iron Hand lists that are out there. I mean, more power to them, right? I mean, you got to bring the right tools to the right fight. And if that's what these guys collectively think is it, and I'm not saying they're wrong by any means, it's definitely going to be interesting to watch it play out.
Yeah. And I mean, you got it open.
Yeah. We're so 2 Chaplain Venerable Dreadnoughts in the 1st Battalion, 3 Intercessor Squads, 5 mans with Stalker bolt rifles. Next Battalion, Iron Father, Lieutenant, 3 Intercessor Squads, all with Stalker bolt rifles, 2 of those being 10-man squads. And that's an Indominus Crusade Specialist Detachment with an Apothecary and then a Spearhead that has another Chaplain Venerable Dreadnought, so that's 3, with 3 Eliminator Squads and then a Relic Leviathan Dreadnought.
Pretty stout. Obviously he's going to make the Leviathan a character. He's going to blow off with basically the shield drone, Iron Hand shield drone strat a lot.
Yep.
Try to make everything untargetable, unkillable for the most part, right?
It's like Richard took everything that he knows he can do well with from Tau and then took the best stuff out of the Space Marines and put it together.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what the generation. I mean, the general consensus on that is it's Tau version Iron Hands.
I mean, hey man, he's been doing pretty hot with it as is. Like again,
I
can't hate the guy for bringing the right, his tools to the fight.
Sure, and I think it's actually better than Tau, to be honest, um,
Sure.
because it hits better with its ballistic skill. It still has moving capabilities and it has durability,
Yep.
no matter what you shoot. So it's a solid list. We'll see how it handles. What do you think the bad matchup would be against this?
Something that can not only touch it, but like can really touch it. You know what I mean? And I'm not
Sure.
just talking about myself by any means. I'm saying some of the Eldar stuff out there. I know there's a lot of bikes and whatnot. They'll be able to reach out and really get across the field, right? And they can
So
make things difficult.
indirect fire on the right table hurts this list.
Sure, sure. I think indirect fire on the right table hurts just about anybody.
Sure.
I think that's
Uh,
probably the balance. The indirect thing can probably catch a lot of folks off guard.
I mean, I think a good possessed player or a possessed list does pretty well against this as well. Um, Stuff that has invulns. Um, Obviously, if you can kind of skate around the Leviathan a little bit, then you're just dealing with, and you have invulns. You're just dealing with the las cannons.
Yeah, and I think you got a good point going back to like what I was saying in regards of things touching stuff. I
Yeah,
think the possessed are one of those things that really have the capability to touch this, and then they're really hard to get rid of after that, right? Because
yeah,
the ability to get in and get stuck with something, and there's some people that are running the word bearers or the night ward's ability to hold a unit in place, and I think we're going to see that perpetually here as a recurring thing as we talk through some of these ranged lists. That's really going to be their bane. I'm not saying that it's going to cripple Richard, for example. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to get out of stuff in certain regards. Um, but at the same time, it's definitely a threat that's out there.
yeah. I mean, I definitely see. With that many bodies, um, anything that can touch this list can still take hostages.
Right.
The anti-hostage situation is very unlikely for this list because it doesn't have a lot of psychic powers to either bust them out, Incredible Hulk style with psychic powers or anything. Um,
Right.
so we'll see what happens. Let's jump on over to the number two guy, um, which would be Vessel himself.
Vessel himself with chaos.
Yep, he went back to his roots.
So we got looks like a battalion, Dark Disciples, Alpha Legion, Demonkin Ritualist Specialist, so that means possessed, Master Possession, Lord Discordant, Dark Apostle. We're seeing Mark of Nurgle on the Disco Lord, Tzinch on the Apostle, Tzinch on the Master of Possession. Chaos Cultists, Possessed, 18 Possessed with Mark of Nurgle, Obliterators with Mark of Slanesh, and then we get into a battalion of Nurgle Demons. That's with Nurglings. And it's also got looks like some Death Guard in there too. Hold on,
Yeah,
this is a funny one. Oh, so he's got Legion Word Bearers too.
it's,
Demon
it's
Prince with wings. Am I messed up on this?
no, I believe that's what you're looking at is the mixed detachment that he had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
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 there.
like a soup detachment.
Yeah,
Um,
I see. I see.
he's trying to unlock powers,
Yeah.
basically to make the Lord of Discordant the minus what 3.
Technically, if he does it right, he can make him a minus. So if he gives him the Warlord trait, the Alpha Legion Warlord trait, I'm not saying he's going to, but he's -1 outside of 12 inches from Alpha Legion, -1 from the Warlord trait, um, -1 from the Dark Apostle, and then -1 from the Nurgle spell, right?
Yeah,
So -4.
-4. Yeah. So the idea basically in this list is to
I
make
mean, it's not the Disco Lord, really. It can be, but the possessed for sure, right?
he can also make the possessed untargetable.
Right, exactly, with
So,
conceal.
yeah, sure. So by making one unit, which is like the Lord Discordant, -4 to hit, and having it run up the board, and having Nurglings and stuff like that, character blocking basically.
Yep,
Um, you really can't shoot and do enough damage anyway to kill that thing, so it's going to get into combat, and then we're following right behind it are the untargetable um, possessed.
yep,
So two things I would say this list has trouble with. One is terrain.
sure. In certain cases,
Um,
yeah.
certain cases, yeah. And two, um, flying and obviously this is you need to go first,
Right,
uh, or else you can still stop the Disco Lord from advancing, and that's kind of a key situation with this list because everything else uses buffs.
sure.
But I mean, we all know Jim's very well versed into character blocking and running big blobs of certain units.
Yeah,
So we'll see how well he does that. Again, terrain's huge into this list because those hills and the way that some of that terrain, even on the top 100 tables, are set up, can really put a hurt on this.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So we have Nick Rose up next. I believe you
So
said
he's
he was
bringing white scars.
white scars.
Yeah. So we got chaplain, librarian, intercessor squads with bolt rifles, two of those with thunderhammers, scout squad, devastator squad with grav cannons, drop pod, and two impulsors for the intercessors up above. And then we go into a battalion, another battalion of white scars, more intercessors, more impulsors, scout squad, vanguard detachment of lieutenants, ancients, and two reaver squads. You want to go on that?
Yeah, I mean this is kind of a play on of half and half of a Nick Nonavati kind of style list between his Iron Hands and his white scars he's bringing. Um, I've been waiting to see someone take Reavers and do well with them in white scars for a while, but finally got Nick Rose, and we'll get to Nonavati. He's also doing the same thing with white scar Reavers. Um, it's a little bit of an interesting situation with this list because it has some stay power with the impulsors. Um, if you haven't played against those, they are super tough and hard to kill. Um, the majority of his list comes down turn 2. So one of the big things that he's going to have trouble with is if you can block him out and zone him out, right?
Sure.
Between um, they're still doing the hills impassable, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They got those impassable hills.
So which is interesting because you can that helps you zone stuff out like this, and the Centurion drop anything that comes in turn 1, turn 2 that drops in.
Yep.
Um, so yet again, if he's on one of those top 100 tables, uh, terrain can be a big feature in going against this list. So,
True.
but outside of that, there's it's a kind of a hard hitting turn 2-ish kind of style list. Just going to start throwing bodies at you at that point.
Yeah. No, I mean, the impulsors, they've got so shield domes, and shield domes. So, I mean, tough little things to get rid of off the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I haven't seen anyone yet not take the shield domes.
Yeah, I've seen some people play around with the orbital bombardment stuff.
Sure.
It's just that we go back to that variability of needing a 5-up or a 4-up or whatever it takes to actually make it kick off. And I just don't think that there's enough consistency to that to make it a really strong, viable tactic versus the resiliency gained by the 4-up shield dome.
I agree. Yeah, it's super powerful having that 4-up. I mean, it's so hard to kill that vehicle.
Yeah.
You have to dedicate so much to it. Um, and it's super great because you can use it to block off and screen. Um, so really not much to go on with that list. We kind of have an understanding of that one.
Well, I think what's going to catch people off, and I'm sorry, I think just something that's going to catch people off guard, especially we talk about Nick here, is that I think the melee phase catches a lot of people off guard, man. I mean, I'm sitting here, of course, painting my red butchers right now. I just think people are not ready for a lot of the stuff that comes out of it, especially the more melee that people try to incline them, or ranged, I'm sorry, the more shooting that people incline themselves, the less that they're thinking about this melee phase that's going to come out and get them here. So I'd advise anybody and everybody to just be aware of what's really coming out of that phase.
Yeah, I mean, we always say here, the close combat phase is one of the most important parts, right?
Yep.
It can make or break a game. I mean, I played a test game tonight and made a severely bad move with one model, and it can flip a lot of things for you.
Yep.
So trying to try one of the list out that I haven't been able to play against that's at LVO. So Nick Nanavati also playing White Scars.
Yep.
This is a jump from his Iron Hands to White Scars.
Yep. So he's got Librarian of Phobos, Primaris Librarian, Incursor Squad, Intercessor Squad, Intercessor Squad. The Incursor's got 7 of them, 8 of them. Thunderfire Cannon, 2 Impulsors with Shield Domes, Chaplain Venerable, 3 Chaplain Venerables, all with Twin Las Cannons. Captain, Chaplain, Incursor, Intercessor, and Reaver Squad.
Yeah, so basically he's just trying to shield the dreadnoughts, throw the incursors. Those are hot in White Scars. I mean, exploding 6s and multiple damage basically in close combat.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, we kind of talked about it earlier on when we talked about Phobos capabilities. And I admit, I've not been a huge fan of the Incursors themselves. But I can definitely see where Nick and others might be going with the Incursors and some of their capabilities, specifically that damage factor in melee, and that they've got that. That's a nice little kick for some of the, Reavers definitely have it. I think that these guys just bring it in a different way.
Yeah, the multiple. I mean, their attacks just are insane. You're throwing buckets of dice, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you haven't seen a whole lot of White Scars mono style. So we just went over 2 top 10 players that have White Scars.
Yeah. Again, I think it goes back to a lot of people realizing that there's just such a heavy inclination towards shooting right now that a little melee can kind of capsize the meta shift. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And next we have John Lennon, who's running a very, like you said, they're all kind of running a variation of this list in a way from Brohammer in Florida.
Yeah. So Iron Hands Battalion, Iron Father, Primaris Lieutenant, 3 intercessor squads in that battalion, 2 of those 9-mans. He's got 2 Power Fists and a Thunderhammer. Battalion, 2 Chaplain Venerables, 3 intercessor squads, again, all Stalker bolt rifles. Another Chaplain Venerable with 3 Eliminators and a Relic Leviathan. Very similar to Siegler. Very little difference in that regard. In fact, almost no difference.
Almost to the T, yeah. So nothing really to explain there. Kind of the same run of the mill for I think the whole team's taken very similar list.
Sure. And again, like, more power to them. If they together as a team, figured this out, this is what they think they're going to, one of them's going to be able to achieve some great success with it, by all means. Like, more power to them.
Run it until it blows out.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you got some top players. I mean, Siegler and Lennon both being from Brohammer, like, good for them.
Next, we got Manny Chima. Manny actually posted a picture of his list when he was completing his last Scorpius, I believe, on Glasshammer. This list is pretty scary for anyone that actually has a lot of vehicles. It's definitely one of those armies we were just talking about where if you have decent terrain like the top 100 tables where there's a lot of hidey hole type situations and they don't have anything that can reach out and touch you, this thing just murders you by sheer volume of dice. You got the list up?
Yep. We've got Captain, excuse me, Imperial Fist, Captain, Chaplain, 3 intercessor squads with Stalker bolt rifles, 3 Relic Whirlwind Scorpiuses with Servitors, 3 suppressor squads, Imperial Fist Spearhead with Tech Marine, 3 Thunderfire cannons, 3 Rapier Carrier quad launchers.
Now that's basically buy a dice cube and then buy another one and just roll them all, basically.
I think it's cool. I do think that this one, more so than even some of the others, is at way more of a threat of being touched. A possessed bomb, the wrong matchup of melee, and this one really, I think, has a hard time getting out of it, more so than the others. But I think that in the ranged aspect, so I know I was apparently, and obviously, I was wrong in my assessment that I thought that Imperial Fist would take it by storm in regards of the meta here at LVO. I thought that they would be in my opinion, the stronger choice.
The go-to.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the comfort of Iron Hands is apparent, and I get it. I'm not saying it's a cop-out by any means. It's the way that was taken. And so, like, we'll see how it continues to play out, but I do think that there's a lot of weight to this list, and I think that the right matchups of it are going to make it a little dangerous. I do think the meta saw some degree of the Iron Hands coming or Imperial Fist coming into play, and I feel like in some regards you just don't see that many vehicles that you need to be that concerned of.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a I won't say niche, but pretty close to it, right? Because you're swaying away from a lot of vehicle heavy list. I mean, like we were just talking about with the Brohammer guys taking a ton of infantry, right?
Yep.
So.
Oh, I mean, absolutely, and I mean, Manny knows what he's doing. He's not like completely oblivious of anything, or what have you. But at the same time, it's going to be there's going to be some interesting takes, I think. Especially, I'll be very interested to see how his matchups go as we review it later.
So the next one is probably one that you and your brother would probably enjoy. TJ Lanigan's list, which has been somewhat taken and overhauled or tweaked in some different variation. And there's several of those throughout the tournament.
Yeah. No, so we're big fans. I mean, for some obvious reasons. So you look at it, he's got a Chaos Undivided battalion, Poxbringers, Nurglings, and then it's a Nurgle deal. Sorry, not Chaos Undivided. The overall battalion of Soup is Nurgle, Poxbringers, Nurglings, Plague Burst Crawlers, 3 of them. Then he's got a Supreme Command detachment of Thousand Suns, which Chris and I both, we swear by the utility of it. So this has got Ahriman, 2 Demon Princes, and then he's got a Alpha Legion. His Supreme Command detachment's also mixed with a. Oh, never mind. Sorry. No, his 3rd detachment is a Supreme Command detachment of Chaos Space Marines, and it's got Dark Disciples. It's Alpha Legion, 2 Dark Apostles, Master of Possession, and 18 possessed Mark of Nurgle. And then he's still got 199 points for reinforcements. And so he's got a little bit of flexibility to play around with, which is awesome. And then the rest of it is pretty nasty. Nurglings to board control, Plague Burst Crawlers for line of sight, destruction, and then your battery of Thousand Sun stuff that just, again, the utility, man. Like, if I wasn't playing Khorne, I don't know how I would justify anything. I know, we've even in our own little deals with some of our other friends, we've had disagreements regarding that the necessity of the Alpha or the Thousand Sun detachment, man. I think there's just too much utility that those 3 psychers offer with their extended range and all to just ignore. I don't think that I'm not saying that they absolutely have to, but it's hard to replace.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like the Leviathan / for Marines. What they do, what the Leviathan does for Marines.
Sure.
Hands down utility add on. So again, we're gonna see a lot of these lists because majority of the chaos list are some sort of form or fashion, kind of like this list. There's definitely a handful of them that have pseudo copied the way TJ wrote his when I think he won a GT up in Canada with it.
I mean, it's definitely been making waves since Faith and Fury, and with Alpha Legion's conceal ability and the amount of blocking that you can do with that, it's just going to be, it's durable. He's got the ability to cast the psychic powers to get it across, right? There's other people. So like you look at Jim Bessel's list, Jim's going to be able to cast warp time and essentially never fail, right? Because of the word bearer stratagem. TJ's he doesn't have the word bearer stratagem, but he's got Ahriman and company, and they're going to cast warp time further. They don't need to be as close. They've got their own stratagem that can buff their casting. They can reroll cast. I mean, there's just a lot of utility to it across the board. I don't think the word bearers are necessarily a wrong answer, but I still like the range provided by the Thousand Suns detachment at this time.
Yeah, and I mean anyone that's thinks that they can kill 3 plague burst crawlers in one turn, it's not going to happen.
It's pretty intense, man. And so between those, his board control with the Nurglings allows him to score points. We go back to these lists, right? So all these players, you got to keep in mind, all these players are bringing what they think can continuously score them high points to get them to the finals of LVO. And so we're not just talking about good gimmicks or tricks or what have you. we're talking about lists that have the mass and the speed and the economy of force to be able to get them to the end of LVO. And so how, when you look at every list and you're sitting there staring at some of this stuff, you got to ask yourself, how is this guy going to get to the end of the LVO with this? And in this case, I mean, and Jim's list, there's just a lot of utility in what they're offering, what they're bringing to the table between the possessed, the psychers, and everything else in between.
Right. And next here we have moving from Manny, moving from TJ, we have Chris Blackham, friend of ours here, trying to. He was top 8 last year, top 8 or top 16 last year. Top 8, right?
I can't remember. I know he went big. He did a good job.
Last year he had a Eldar kind of mixed soupish army. Yeah,
so this year it is another mix. He's got Craft World, mixed Craft World battalion, Eldrad with a Spirit Seer, 3 Rangers. The Rangers are Aeliatok. Eldrad, of course, is Ulthuan. The Spirit Seer is a custom Craft World. And then he's got a Prophets of Flesh battalion with Drazar, Homunculus, 3 Rack squads, 2 Grotesque squads, and he's got a Supreme Command detachment, which is a custom Craft World, Children of Prophecy, Hail of Doom, 2 Farseers, or a Farseer Skyrunner, a Warlock Skyrunner, and then a Warlock Skyrunner Conclave.
So I've been kind of down on the Conclave lately, but hoping he can pull it off. It definitely has some teeth if it's used correctly.
I think Chris knows, of course he knows what he's doing. I think he's going in there. He's going to have a good time. I think he's going to have a really good time. I think that sometimes it's going to be able to make it, and then there's going to be every once in a while where something might happen. I'm not so convinced that this has everything to just, we're not looking at it and saying this is the outright winner by any means, right?
Yeah, sure.
But I do think that Chris knows how to really enjoy himself in playing a game, and I think he's going to have a blast with it. I think he still does have a chance of winning and going really big with it. I just don't think that it's as much of a deal as some of the others in certain regards.
Sure.
I think that Chris knows that he's got other things he could have brought to the table, but he chose this instead.
Maybe a very low but tight 5-1.
Yeah, somewhere along those lines. I think that Chris knows there's some other stuff that he could have brought, and I think 5-1 at best. He goes 6-0, but doesn't maybe score enough points to make it into the top 16.
Sure. All right, so moving on, we just covered Blackham. The next is Brian Pullman with Tau. Very few Tau players this year.
Yeah.
Especially with the likes of people like Siegler putting them down to pick up Marines.
Yep. So he's got Tau Sept Outrider with Commander in XP85 suit, 3 Cyclic Ion Blasters. Then he's got 3 tactical drone squads, which are 12 drones in each one. That's 9 shield drones in each one, so 27 right out the gate, with 3 marker drones in each one, so 9 marker drones. Vanguard detachment with Cadre Fireblade. Another commander in XP85 with Cyclic Iron Blasters. 3 Riptides. Another commander in a Cold Star Battlesuit with fusion blasters, an Ethereal, Firesight Marksman, and 2 Stealth Battlesuit squads. I mean, that's a lot of stuff, man. 3 Riptides on top of everything else, and 27, 9, 36 drones. I mean, it's pretty healthy. Not saying that there isn't enough shooting out there, but it's out there.
Sure. And Pullman plays a different game with Tao. He plays a very aggressive, push forward kind of Tao.
Yeah,
Instead of
Poland
castle up.
does a really. I mean, from some of the other stuff we've seen, and everything, Poland really brings it in with. I'm glad he continues to bring Tao. I think that I'm interested to hear more conversation on why, not just Siegler, but some others might have dropped Tao, regardless of the fact of what the Marines are bringing. I mean, I think that there's still a chance. You know what I mean? I don't think that there was enough with the between what Siegler accomplished at Pro Tabletop and where we're at now. I don't think that there's enough to necessarily scare Tao off the table.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's still a lot of great matchups for Tao as well.
Yeah.
So, stuff like the possessed bombs that don't have negatives to hit, or if you can manage to kind of be able to shoot Overwatch and stuff like that, it's pretty huge against guys trying to charge you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see it too, and we're not going to dig deep enough to really get into it. There are probably enough anti-Overwatch things out there. There's, the Faith and Fury introduced with the Night Lords and Emperor's Children and a bunch of other abilities for people to get Warp Talons into a point or whatever. I don't think that it is enough. I don't think that the Warp Talons would have been enough to completely halt the Tau capability.
Sure.
But I can understand how you maybe don't want to risk that going into it, because you understand, again, if these players have thought about the format at Nova, they understand how they need to make points, and there's probably a degree of consistency provided by the Space Marines that they're willing to take that.
Yeah. So I mean, like, he's a very talented player. Plays very aggressive, which is something that normal Tau players don't. So I could see him doing pretty well.
Sure.
Next up, we have Stephen Pamperine to round out the top 10 on ITC page. I believe he's playing the same list I played him at Pro Tabletops.
And so he's got Raptors, which is Raven Guard's successor. He's got Izadon, Primaris Lieutenant, 2 Incursor squads, Intercessor squad with Bolt Rifle and Thunderhammers, 2 Centurions with, Assault squads with Flamers, and then a Centurion Devastator squad, Thunderfire Cannon, battalion of Raven Guard with Captain, Primaris Chaplain, and 3 Scout squads. Is that the same thing you fought him with at Pro Tabletop?
Yeah, it's really close. There's a couple of minor changes, but it's definitely really close to what he had already.
Cool.
And so he's been playing it for a while, and he understands how it plays out. Obviously, being able to zone out something like that is huge. Again, his big deal is turn 2 drop for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can zone it out, great. If not, you might get caught off guard.
Sure.
But all of these guys are we just talked through, for the most part, are great guys. I mean,
for the most part. I'm kidding. They are.
I mean, except for that Jim Vessel guy, right?
Nah, man. I'm like, the nice thing is, man, is we just went through the top 10, and by all accounts, I mean, these are all, I haven't met all of them, but you hear great things, and it's not something that we're sitting here like there's nobody eliciting a groan or anything like that, right? I think we talked about this some after Pro Tabletop from Richard Siegler and whatnot. I think that it's just great that we've got a relatively, the player base and in the spirit of the game, and again, going back to being able to enjoy yourselves at games, right? Like, you don't have a bunch of what you read about of win at all cost players necessarily that are at each other's throats all the time, and it's nice to know that, like, going into this, looking at the top 10, that we've got a really stable group of players that can all appreciate their player skill as well as their sportsmanship.
Sure. And they're all, they all have different play styles. They all are great dudes up there in the top 10. So we'll see how well it plays out. Do you have any predictions?
I think. I mean, I'm interested to see how Richard Siegler does with his Iron Hands Space Marine Tau Army. I think that, I mean, all accounts, he's got a good chance of continuing to do what he does. However, man, I tell you what, like, we just covered the top 10, 850 people, and I go back to this formatting, like, all it takes is one person to knock someone else out. You know what I mean? And then what are we looking at? It could be completely random people at the top, and not necessarily random. I mean, they're going to have fought hard. They're going to have played their way up. But there's just so many different matchups that are going to occur over this weekend. I'd be interested to talk to the Variance Hammer guy or some of the other groups out there that can run the statistic numbers on it. But, like, what are the odds of any given matchup occurring? You know what I mean? Like, what are the odds that you and me meet each other at whatever random junction?
I mean, hell, last year I flew all the way out there and got to play Raymond round 3.
Right, right.
From here. So
yeah.
So there's never a no almost. I mean, this is outside of putting the same team on your tagline.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. It's really hard to kind of break down exactly how certain things are going to go and who's going to be doing what at the end of day 2.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I've got my Chaplain Dreadnought approval, so we'll see. I mean, there's speculation that they don't do a single thing about it. There's also speculation that they go by and hit them in the trash can. So,
I mean, there's going to be something that's egregious out there. I appreciate that they have a standard and that they laid out a process and they said, hey, look, we put this process here, and all people had to do was put it in there and get it approved. You know what I mean? And
it's a simple.
You can't blame them for upholding their standard to whatever extent. And I think that it's only going to be probably dynamically enforced, if you want to put it like that, under the most egregious of circumstances. And I can tell you, with 850 people and just humans being humans, as much as I hate to say it, I think that there's going to be an egregious case, at least.
Well, we'll see, right?
We will. We will see.
All the speculation.
Yeah.
It's always great because you have a chance to see, like, dark horses all actually just coming out of left field, and with this many players, that's very understandable as well and expected almost to see some dark horse players coming from, not too far behind, but on the level there, and push out someone that has a lot of notoriety. And
well, I mean, just going back to our initial conversation, right? If everybody just played as hard as they could in every single game, which would mean that there's going to be a lot of people that get knocked out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who knows what would rise to the top of that?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like who really can say that what would be where at any given point if that's what every single person did? And I just don't expect that to necessarily be the case.
Right. Well, I guess we'll see in a couple of days.
We sure will, as I do just that.
Be that dark horse, eh?
I mean, I'm not saying I'm gonna rise to the top, but I'm definitely gonna throw the kitchen sink at it. We'll see what shakes out.
There you go. Um, so yeah, so I think that kind of wraps up what we were going to talk about. We hit at the top 10 list and top 10 players of ITC. Um, they're all going to be there. They're all playing. Most of them are playing Marines. I think there was a Goonhammer article. Isn't that what you said? That's the one
Yeah.
that said there's like 590
Yeah.
Marine lists. In different subcategories as well. So we'll see if one of those 500 and possibly 90-ish players um, can take it all.
It's
A
gonna
lot of
be
great players
interesting.
playing Marines. Yeah. So
Yep.
we'll see what happens, and we will try to go live once we land in Vegas and start chit chatting with some folks. You're getting in pretty late, I believe, aren't you?
On Thursday. Yeah. In fact, I want to just throw it out there, man. Um, I mean, I understand we've worked with them and everything, and I'm not meaning to make a commercial out of this, but by all means, like the business prospects on this, man, I think they've already closed. It's Wednesday, it's midnight. And so, like, I'm not necessarily advertising, but I gotta say, the deal with Hammerhead Games of getting the Army tray at LVO. So I pre ordered like their Army tray 2.0 and some movement bases. And of course, I appreciate it because you're going to go pick it up for me, which is a special deal. I worked out and coordinated with them and everything. But at the same time, just because I'm getting in there so late, which again, I appreciate. But I really appreciate the business aspect that I can order this stuff and it's going to be waiting for me so I can put it together Thursday night. So I'll have it available without having to ship it around and whatnot.
You mean you didn't buy that for my birthday this week?
No, my birthday was actually well now since it's Wednesday, my birthday was 2 days ago as well. So
All right. Well, I'll just buy my own damn case.
well, I mean, we can buy one for each other and just trade it.
Well, it's going to be the same logo. So
True.
I ended up buying one too from Hammerhead Games from Tony.
Nice.
Very gracious dude. He's helped us out. It makes our turn counters. He is a very let's see, generous person because he opens his business up to a lot of other podcasts, a lot of events.
Yeah.
He is very community, and if you have not checked out his stuff, go to hammerheadgames.net and hell, while you're there, buy one of our Alpha Strike turn counters and grab you a LVO tray, and he'll have those on hand. He also is renting
Pre-order
them
is
out.
done. He's going to have them on hand, but the pre-order ended earlier Tuesday night.
Right, and I believe he's driving right now, so
Yeah.
he's packing up the family and headed out to old Vegas. So at least stop by his table and say hi. Tell him that you heard it here on the Alpha Strike, and he's always willing to, say hi. He's very open. So we've got some great guys that are helping out, such as Tony and Hammerhead. We picked up some other sponsors as well. So definitely hit us up. I'll be arriving around 4:30ish, 5 o'clock, I believe, Vegas time. So we'll be checking in and walking around Thursday. I know a lot of folks from this area are going up on Wednesday. Um, and you said you're hitting late Thursday, right?
Yeah, I get in. I get in late Thursday night. Not too late, but late enough that unfortunately, I think I'm missing pre-registration. Maybe.
Gotcha. It's going to be a great time. Super excited. Where did you actually fall in ITC?
Right now,
Like
in the
LVO, yeah.
high. I'm in the high 300s. Number one corn dude, but yeah, I'm currently in the high 300s.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, there's let's see, games start Friday at 9. I believe they're gonna have 2 streams. I believe one GW, one Frontline Gaming or something. With Val and Stat Center guys, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you're up and at it on Friday and you want to kind of watch TV instead of work on a Friday, start watching some games and lead over into Saturday and Sunday. So if I can't manage to make the top 8, I'm gonna try to hit the RTT on Sunday, I believe. Just
Nice.
pound out some more games because that's the start of the new season.
Yep.
So, but we appreciate everyone. We'll see you hopefully at Vegas. If not, have any questions, comments here, hit us up. I did, let's see, I haven't been able to do another video here recently. They are buying a new camera at Giga. So we're going to have to suffer through it until they get everything hooked up correctly. And then I'm going to jump back on there and do some more tutorials after Vegas.
Nice.
But us at the Alpha Strike, show no mercy, sweep the leg, and we'll see you all in Vegas.